The neon lights of Seoul flickered against the damp pavement, painting streaks of pink and blue across the night. Music throbbed from every corner of Hongdae's club district, the bass vibrating through the streets like a heartbeat calling to the restless. Sarah stood at the edge of the sidewalk, her long curly hair bouncing with each subtle move as she tried to summon courage. Her skin, dark and flawless like polished ebony, reflected the city's lights in a way that made her stand out from the crowd of pale faces rushing past her. She was 23, full of reckless fire, and tonight, she had decided she would do something insane. One night stand with a CEO, they always say it changes lives, she muttered under her breath, rolling her eyes but smiling. People meet them at clubs, sleep with them, get pregnant, and end up marrying rich. Why can't it be me? Her Nigerian accent was soft, but still noticeable after years in Korea. Her scholarship had ended 6 months ago, but Sarah had refused to go back home. She had clawed her way into a work visa by juggling side jobs, modeling gigs, and part-time cafe shifts. Korea had become her playground, and she wasn't ready to leave. But beneath her confidence was a girl still chasing something, perhaps freedom, perhaps a fairy tale. She pushed open the club doors, and immediately, smoke and perfume enveloped her. The heavy beat of EDM pounded through the floorboards, and bodies moved in a chaotic rhythm on the dance floor. Sarah grinned, threw her head back, and let the music swallow her whole. Her hips swayed, her arms lifted, and soon she was lost in the rhythm. A few men tried to dance with her, but she waved them off. Tonight wasn't about just anyone. Tonight, she wanted fate. And fate came, or so she thought. A man's hand slid around her waist from behind, firm yet playful. Sarah froze for a moment, then slowly turned. He was tall, maybe 6 feet, with sharp cheekbones and eyes that glistened like mischief itself. His brown hair was slightly tousled, his lips curved in a cocky smirk. He wasn't exactly dressed like a CEO, black ripped jeans, a fitted shirt, leather jacket hanging loose, but he had that aura. Not of money, but of danger. Dancing alone? He asked in Korean, his voice low and teasing. Sarah smirked back. Maybe I like it that way. Or maybe. He leaned closer, his breath tickling her ear. You were waiting for me. Her heart thumped. Damn, this one knows how to talk. The night blurred after that. Drinks flowed, laughter echoed, and before Sarah realized it, they stumbled into a hotel room nearby. She wasn't drunk, just tipsy enough to forget her doubts. And then, the one-night stand happened. It was messy, reckless, the kind of passion she had only read about in novels. The man was wild, untamed, and Sarah, sweet but dramatic Sarah, let herself drown in it. When she finally collapsed on the bed, her body aching, a satisfied grin painted her lips. So this is what people talk about. But morning came too fast. Sunlight spilled through the blinds, falling across the stranger's face. Sarah sat up slowly, her curly hair tangled, her eyes still hazy. Then, she saw him clearly, and her grin vanished. What the hell, she whispered. The man wasn't glowing with CEO elegance at all. His stubble was rough, his hair even messier than before, and the way he sprawled carelessly across the sheets screamed Playboy loser. No way, Sarah muttered, clutching her head. No way. I slept with this? Where's the CEO vibe? The aura? The money smell? She hadn't finished ranting when the hotel door suddenly burst open. 2 women, dressed in skimpy outfits, stormed in, their voices loud and annoyed. Appa, we waited downstairs for an hour, one of them whined. The man groaned, sat up, and rubbed his eyes. Damn, I forgot. He smirked lazily at Sarah. Guess I overbooked my night. Sarah's jaw dropped. Overbooked? Her face burned with humiliation. She grabbed her dress, yanked it on, and bolted out of the room before tears could spill. The shame gnawed at her all the way home. She had wanted a one-night fairy tale, but instead, she became an extra in a Playboy's chaotic schedule. At least I'll never see him again, she muttered, slamming her apartment door shut. But fate wasn't done with her. 2 months later, Sarah sat in a hospital hallway, her hands trembling as she held a test result. Her period hadn't come. Her body had been screaming with strange symptoms. She had thought maybe, just maybe, she was pregnant. That would have been something. A rich man's child. A chance at a fairy tale. Even if messy. But no. The paper in her hand crushed that hope. Positive. Not pregnancy. STD. Sarah covered her mouth to stop herself from screaming. God forbid me? Of all people? Tears spilled down her cheeks. People sleep around and either get pregnant or get married, but me? I get an STD? From that rough Playboy? Her chest heaved. Anger replaced shame. No, she whispered, her eyes blazing. He will pay for this. I don't care if he's too young, I don't care who he is. He must marry me, with this STD. He owes me. And so, Sarah's revenge began. The air in Seoul was crisp that morning, a sharp contrast to the storm brewing in Sarah's heart. She tugged her jacket closer around her slim frame, her curly hair bouncing angrily as she marched down the street. The hospital report was folded inside her handbag, but the words kept flashing before her eyes like neon signs. STD. It wasn't just a medical condition anymore. It was betrayal, humiliation, and rage wrapped into one ugly word. Her footsteps echoed against the pavement. He will pay. I don't care if he was just some playboy. I don't care if he thinks I was just another notch on his belt. He ruined my pride, and now he'll fix it, even if it means marriage. Sarah stopped in front of a towering glass building. She didn't even know why her feet had brought her here. Maybe instinct, maybe fate. The man. The stranger. She hadn't even asked his name that night. But the universe, cruel as it was, had ways of revealing the truth. Last week, while scrolling social media, Sarah's eyes had nearly popped out when she saw a news headline. Notorious young Mafia boss spotted at Hongdae Club again. And there he was. The same tousled brown hair. The same lazy smirk. His name, Jinwoo Kong. Age, 24. Reputation, ruthless underground mafia prince. Reckless, untamable. Sarah had stared at the article, mouth open. I didn't sleep with the CEO. I slept with the mafia boss. The humiliation twisted into something darker. Revenge. She had heard stories about him, how women threw themselves at him, how he was dangerous, untouchable, wrapped in power his family had built for decades. But Sarah wasn't afraid. If anything, it only made her resolve sharper. He must take responsibility. Mafia or not, I'm not backing down. Inside the glass building, one of the Kong family's known legitimate businesses, Sarah stomped into the lobby. The receptionist, a polished woman in a navy suit, looked up with a fake smile. Annyeonghaseyo. Do you have an appointment? Sarah slammed her palm on the counter. No. But tell your boss, Jinwoo Kong, that Sarah is here to see him. The receptionist blinked. Excuse me, miss? You can't just. I said tell him. Sarah snapped, her voice echoing. Heads turned. A few employees whispered. The receptionist stiffened, clearly thrown off by the fiery foreign woman. She reached for the phone. One moment, please. Minutes later, two broad men in black suits appeared. Bodyguards. Miss, you need to come with us, one said curtly. Sarah smirked. Good. I'm getting closer. The elevator ride to the top floor was suffocating. The guards didn't say a word, but Sarah felt their eyes on her. She stood tall, crossing her arms, refusing to let nerves show. The door slid open to a lavish penthouse office. Floor-to-ceiling windows bathed the room in sunlight, and the view of Seoul stretched endlessly. And there he was, Jinwoo Kong. He lounged on a leather sofa, one leg propped over the other, a glass of whiskey in his hand though it was barely noon. His white shirt was unbuttoned at the top, showing a teasing glimpse of toned chest. His messy hair somehow looked deliberate, and that damn smirk still played on his lips as if life was one big joke. Sarah's blood boiled. Well, Jinwoo drawled, his voice low and dangerous. If it isn't my runaway one-night stand. I wondered when you'd crawl back. Sarah's jaw clenched. Crawl back? Please. If I'd known you were trash that night, I wouldn't have touched you. The guard stiffened at her tone, but Jinwoo chuckled, swirling his whiskey. Spicy. I like it. Most women either cry or beg me to call them again. You are different. Sarah stormed forward, slamming the hospital report on the table in front of him. Different? You're damn right I am. Read that. Jinwoo arched a brow, lazily picking up the paper. His eyes scanned it, then flicked back to her with mock innocence. STD? TSK, TSK. And you think I gave it to you? You're the only man I've been with. Sarah shot back, her voice trembling with fury. Don't play dumb. This is on you. And now you're going to take responsibility. The room went silent. The guards exchanged glances, unsure whether to intervene. Then Jinwoo laughed. A deep, mocking laugh that sent chills down Sarah's spine. Take responsibility, he repeated, standing up. His height towered over her, his presence suddenly suffocating. Do you even know who I am, sweetheart? I don't do responsibility. I don't do love. I don't do marriage. I do fun. Sarah tilted her chin up defiantly. Then guess what? I'm not asking. I'm demanding. You will marry me. Mafia boss or not, I don't care. Jinwoo's smirk faltered for the first time. His eyes narrowed, studying her. Marry me? You think you can trap me with this? He waved the report. Sarah stepped closer, her dark eyes blazing. This isn't about trapping. This is about respect. You ruined me, and now you'll fix it. You think you're untouchable, but guess what? I'm not scared of you, Jinwoo Kong. Not one bit. For a moment, silence stretched. His gaze burned into hers, sharp and unreadable. Then, unexpectedly, Jinwoo grabbed her wrist and yanked her forward. Sarah gasped as their bodies collided, his face inches from hers. You've got guts, he whispered, his breath warm against her lips. Most people beg me not to hurt them. But you're demanding marriage? His hand slid up her arm slowly, deliberately, until it rested just below her shoulder. Sarah's heart pounded, but she didn't back down. Yes, she hissed. Marriage. Or I'll make sure the world knows your dirty secrets. Jinwoo's smirk returned, more dangerous this time. Careful, sweetheart. You're playing with fire. And fire burns. Before Sarah could retort, Jinwoo pressed his lips against hers. It wasn't a kiss of affection. It was a challenge, a battle. His lips were hot, demanding, forcing dominance, while Sarah pushed back fiercely. Her hands pressed against his chest, not to shove him away, but to keep herself steady against the onslaught of heat that threatened to consume her. When he finally pulled back, his eyes glinted with mischief and something darker. Fine, he murmured, brushing a strand of her curly hair back. You want marriage? I'll think about it. But know this, Sarah. You've stepped into my world now. And in my world, nothing comes without a price. Sarah's breath shook, her lips tingling. She glared at him, but deep inside, a dangerous spark ignited. The game had begun. The following week in Seoul felt like a fever dream for Sarah. Everywhere she went, she saw his face in magazines, in news articles, even plastered on a giant LED screen outside the subway. Kong Jinwoo. He wasn't just some reckless clubber. He was the mafia boss, a shadow prince who danced between Seoul's glittering nightlife and the blood-stained underworld. The newspapers called him the untouchable. Women called him the devil's kiss. Men either feared him or wanted to be him. Sarah called him something else entirely. The bastard who ruined me. She wasn't going to stop until he took responsibility. STD or not, marriage or not, he had tangled himself in her life, and now he would pay. Sarah's phone buzzed late in the evening as she folded laundry in her tiny office-style apartment. She grabbed it absent-mindedly, expecting a text from her part-time job manager. Instead, the screen glowed with an unknown number. Meet me. Tonight. Hotel Shilla, Penthouse 1802. J. Sarah froze. Her heart thudded wildly. He found her? Or maybe he was giving in. She stared at the text, biting her lip. This could be a trap. Or it could be the beginning of him realizing I'm serious. With reckless determination, she yanked on a black fitted dress, fluffed her curls in the mirror, and headed out. The penthouse was guarded by two men in suits. They didn't ask questions, only checked her ID before ushering her in. Sarah stepped inside and gasped. The room was lavish, gold accents, velvet furniture, a chandelier sparkling like 1,000 diamonds. Seoul's nightscape glittered beyond the wide windows. And there he was. Jinwoo sat at a long glass table, dressed in a crisp black suit that contrasted his lazy smirk. He looked nothing like the messy playboy from the club. Tonight, he radiated power. Right on time, he drawled, sipping a glass of red wine. I like punctual women. Sarah rolled her eyes and marched toward him. Cut the crap. Why did you call me? Jinwoo pushed a folder across the table. Sit. Read. She hesitated before sliding into the chair opposite him. Opening the folder, her eyes widened. Contract of marriage. Her lips parted in shock. You're actually agreeing? Don't get too excited, Jinwoo said, his tone cold. It's a contract, not a love story. We marry for 1 year. Publicly, you'll be my wife. Privately, you'll know your place. Sarah's fists clenched. And if I say no? Jinwoo leaned back, his gaze sharp. Then I'll release pictures of you from that night. Do you really want to be the foreign woman plastered across Korean tabloids as my discarded fling? Do you want your precious visa revoked? Sarah's breath caught. Rage and fear warred in her chest. He was blackmailing her. You're disgusting, she spat. And yet, Jinwoo said smoothly, rising to his feet. You're here, reading my contract. He moved closer, his presence overwhelming, his cologne heady and intoxicating. Sarah's chair scraped back as she stood abruptly. You think you can scare me into this? She challenged. Jinwoo's lips curved. Not scare. Tempt. Before she could react, he cupped her chin, tilting her face upward. His eyes gleamed dangerously. Marry me, Sarah. Hate me, fight me, curse me all you want. But be mine, even if only for a year. Sarah's breath hitched. Her mind screamed to slap him, but her body betrayed her. Heat surged through her veins, her lips tingling from his proximity. She yanked herself free, glaring. Fine. I'll marry you. But listen carefully, Jinwoo Kong. I won't be your toy. And if you think I'll sit quietly while you play Mafia Prince, you're dead wrong. Jinwoo chuckled darkly. Perfect. I like my women wild. The contract was signed that night. And just like that, Sarah's life was no longer her own. The next morning, news exploded. Kon Jinwoo announces surprise engagement to Nigerian student Sarah Okafor. Social media went wild. Some called it a scandal, some called it romance. Most simply couldn't believe it. Jinwoo Kong, the untouchable Mafia heir, tying himself to a foreign woman no one had ever heard of. Sarah scrolled through comments, her stomach twisting. She's just after his money. Foreign girls will do anything for fame. Appa, why her? Tears pricked her eyes, but she forced them down. I asked for this. I wanted revenge. Now I have it. But revenge was messier than she expected. 2 nights later, Sarah found herself in Jinwoo's mansion, a sprawling modern estate on the hills overlooking the Han River. The house itself felt like another world, all glass walls and expensive art, guarded by men who bowed at Jinwoo's slightest nod. Sarah dragged her suitcase into the guest room, muttering under her breath. This doesn't feel like marriage. It feels like prison. Jinwoo leaned against the doorway, watching her with that infuriating smirk. You're my wife now. That means you live here. That means my rules. Sarah glared at him. Rule number 1. Don't touch me. Jinwoo stepped closer, his eyes glinting. Rule number 1. I touch whatever is mine. Before she could snap, he closed the distance, his hand brushing her cheek. Sarah's breath caught, but she slapped his hand away. Try it again, and I'll cut your hand off, she hissed. Jinwoo laughed, a low, dangerous sound. You'll be fun. The chandelier above the grand ballroom sparkled like falling stars, casting golden light across a sea of gowns and tuxedos. The Kong family mansion had never looked more extravagant, filled with Seoul's elite, business tycoons, politicians, heirs, heiresses, and even a few underground figures pretending to be respectable. At the center of it all stood Sarah. Her long curly hair framed her striking face, her ebony skin glowing against the crimson silk gown Jinwoo had chosen for her. Diamonds hung delicately from her neck, too heavy for her liking, but she held her chin high. Tonight was their engagement party, and tonight, the world would see her as his. Her stomach twisted as cameras flashed. She heard the whispers everywhere. She's foreign. She trapped him somehow. It won't last a month. But Sarah wasn't about to crumble. She had come too far. Jinwoo, as always, looked infuriatingly at ease. Dressed in a sharp black tuxedo, he had one hand in his pocket and the other resting lightly on Sarah's waist, as though they'd been together forever. His smirk never left, charming the crowd with effortless arrogance. "Smile," he murmured against her ear, his voice low enough only she could hear. Sarah forced her lips into a curve. "I'll smile when you choke on your champagne." Jinwoo chuckled, pulling her closer. "Careful, sweetheart. People might actually think you adore me when you glare like that." Her nails dug into his arm, but the cameras clicked louder, sealing the image of a perfect couple. The speeches began, the toasts flowed, and Sarah played her role. She smiled when necessary, shook hands with politicians, and accepted fake compliments from women whose eyes burned with jealousy. But when Jinwoo disappeared into a side room with two suited men, Sarah found herself momentarily free. She slipped out onto the balcony, breathing in the cool night air. Her hands trembled as she gripped the railing. "What am I doing? This isn't revenge anymore, this feels like imprisonment." "Beautiful night, isn't it?" Sarah turned sharply. A man stood a few feet away, tall and striking, with jet black hair and sharp eyes that gleamed like a hawk's. He wore a navy suit, tailored to perfection, and his smile was warm, but his aura sent shivers down her spine. "I'm sorry," Sarah said cautiously. "Do I know you?" "Not yet." The man extended a hand. "Lee Min-jae, business partner of the Kangs. And perhaps a friend to you." Sarah hesitated before shaking his hand. His grip was firm, his gaze intense. "You look uncomfortable," Min-jae said smoothly. Forced smiles, tense shoulders. "This engagement, it wasn't your choice, was it?" Sarah's chest tightened. "That's none of your business." Min-jae tilted his head. "Maybe not. But let me give you advice. Jinwoo Kang doesn't marry. Not for love, not for obligation. If he tied himself to you, there's a reason. And reasons in this world are never innocent." Before Sarah could respond, the balcony doors swung open. Jinwoo strode out, his smirk replaced with a dangerous glare. "Min-jae," he said flatly, "step away from my fiancé." Min-jae smiled casually. "Just welcoming her to the family, Jinwoo. Don't be so possessive." "Leave," Jinwoo snapped. Min-jae bowed mockingly, his eyes flicking back to Sarah before he disappeared inside. Sarah turned to Jinwoo, anger bubbling. "What was that about?" "He was just talking." Jinwoo grabbed her wrist, pulling her close, his eyes like burning coals. "Don't trust him. Ever. If you see him again, walk away." Sarah yanked her hand free. "You don't control who I talk to." Jinwoo leaned down, his face inches from hers, his voice a low growl. "When you're in my world, Sarah, I control everything. And if Min-jae touches you again, I'll kill him." Her breath caught at the intensity in his tone. His possessiveness infuriated her, and yet, deep down, a dangerous thrill coiled in her chest. Later that night, after the guests had gone and the mansion was silent, Sarah stormed into Jinwoo's private study. "You embarrassed me tonight," she accused. Jinwoo didn't look up from the glass of whiskey in his hand. "Correction, you embarrassed yourself by talking to a snake." Sarah marched forward, slamming her palms on the desk. "I'm not your property. If this marriage is just a contract, then treat me like a business partner, not some pet you leash." Finally, Jinwoo's eyes lifted to hers. They were darker than usual, a storm swirling within. He stood slowly, circling the desk until he was directly in front of her. "Do you really think this is just a contract?" he murmured. Sarah stiffened. "That's what you said." Jinwoo stepped closer, his hand brushing a strand of her hair aside. His touch lingered on her cheek, sending shivers down her spine. "What if," he whispered, "it becomes something more?" Before she could answer, his lips claimed hers. This kiss was different from the first, less of a challenge, more of a demand. His hand cupped the back of her neck, pulling her in, while Sarah's fists clenched against his chest. She should push him away. She should scream. But instead, her lips parted, betraying her resolve. Heat surged between them, sharp and consuming. When he finally pulled back, both of them were breathing hard. "You hate me," Jinwoo said softly, almost amused. "But your body doesn't." Sarah's palm cracked across his cheek before she even realized it. The sound echoed in the study. "Don't confuse lust with love, Jinwoo," she spat. "You'll never own me." She stormed out, her heart pounding, her lips still tingling with betrayal. Jinwoo touched his cheek, the faintest smile tugging at his lips. "She'll be mine," he muttered to himself. "Whether she admits it or not." Sarah stared at her reflection in the gilded mirror of Kong Jinwoo's penthouse bedroom, her hands nervously smoothing the satin dress that clung to her curves. The city lights glittered outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting a golden glow over her ebony skin. She didn't feel like herself anymore. Not the Nigerian girl who had danced recklessly in a smoky club on that fateful night, but someone who had been broken, mended, and reshaped by fate itself. Her heart still trembled whenever she thought about everything that had happened. The STD scare, the shame, the humiliating hotel room incident, the endless arguments with Jinwoo, the Mafia revelations, the threats, the kisses that burned like fire, and the confusing tenderness he sometimes showed in the middle of his chaos. Tonight was different. Tonight it all had to come to an end. "Are you ready?" Jinwoo's deep voice cut through her thoughts. Sarah turned. He stood by the balcony door, black suit hugging his lean frame, a silver chain glinting against his neck. His eyes were unreadable, cold and sharp, yet beneath them flickered something softer. "For what?" she asked, crossing her arms. "Another game? Another night where you decide who I am to you, nuisance, distraction, or," she paused, swallowing hard, "or something more?" Jinwoo's jaw tightened. He walked toward her, each step slow, deliberate. "I never played games with you, Sarah. Not you." Sarah let out a bitter laugh. "Really? Then what do you call that night? When I was just supposed to be some random girl you forgot the next morning. What do you call leaving me with scars and shame?" He stopped just inches away, his scent, clean, expensive cologne mixed with danger, wrapping around her. He reached out, hesitated, then let his hand drop. "I call it fate," he murmured. "Fate," Sarah repeated, scoffing. "No, Jinwoo. Fate is when two people meet and something beautiful comes from it. But what we had, it was a mistake." Jinwoo's lips curled into a half-smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. "A mistake you can't stop thinking about. A mistake that makes your pulse race every time I'm near. Tell me I'm wrong." Her body betrayed her before her mouth could argue. She hated that he could read her so easily. "Why me, Jinwoo?" she whispered, the fight draining from her. "You could have anyone. Why hold on to me when you're supposed to be untouchable, ruthless, dangerous?" This time he touched her. His fingers lifted her chin gently, forcing her to meet his gaze. "Because you're the only one who ever saw me," he said. "Not the Mafia boss. Not the Playboy. Just me." Her throat tightened, eyes stinging with unshed tears. Before she could reply, his lips were on hers. Fierce, claiming, desperate. The kind of kiss that demanded an answer, that begged for surrender. And she gave it, not because she was weak, but because her heart had already chosen him long before her mind accepted it. Her hands clutched his shoulders, his arms caged her in, and for a moment the world outside ceased to exist. There was no Mafia, no shame, no revenge. Just two souls colliding in a storm neither could escape. When they finally pulled apart, Sarah's breath was ragged. "This doesn't erase everything," she managed. "I don't want to erase it," Jinwoo said, pressing his forehead against hers. "I want to build from it. I want you to fight me, challenge me, scream at me if you must, But don't leave me. Her chest ached. She wanted to believe him, but fear clung stubbornly. The sound of a gunshot shattered the moment. Both turned sharply. Outside, chaos erupted, shouting, footsteps, and the echo of more gunfire. Jinwoo cursed under his breath, pulling Sarah behind him. "It's my uncle's men," he hissed. "They've finally made their move." Her heart raced. "What?" "Here." He grabbed a sleek handgun from the drawer. "Stay behind me, no matter what happens." But Sarah wasn't the type to stay still. As masked men stormed into the penthouse, Jinwoo fired back with deadly precision. The fight was brutal, bullets ricocheting, furniture shattering. Sarah ducked, adrenaline surging, until one of the men lunged at Jinwoo with a knife. "Jinwoo!" she screamed. Without thinking, she grabbed the heavy vase from the table and smashed it over the attacker's head. He collapsed instantly. Jinwoo turned, eyes wide, then let out a dark chuckle even in the middle of chaos. "You really are mine," he muttered. By the time reinforcements from Jinwoo's loyal men arrived, the attackers had fled. The penthouse was in ruins, but Sarah and Jinwoo were alive, side by side, shaken yet unbroken. Later, as paramedics patched Jinwoo's arm where a bullet had grazed him, Sarah sat quietly, trembling. He reached for her hand, squeezing it tightly. "See? This is why I can't let you go. You're not just a woman I slept with. You're the woman who stood by me when everyone else would have run." Tears slid down her cheeks, but this time they were mixed with relief. "Jinwoo," she whispered, "I don't know what's ahead. I don't know if I can survive in your world." "You don't have to survive it alone," he said firmly. "From now on, it's our world. Together." Months later, Sarah stood in front of the mirror again, but this time in a white dress. Not satin clubwear, but a gown that glowed against her dark skin. Her long curls framed her radiant face as she adjusted the veil nervously. The doors opened, and there he was, Kang Jinwoo, no longer just the reckless mafia boss, but a man who had chosen her against all odds. As she walked down the aisle, memories of that first humiliating night flashed in her mind. She almost laughed. What a strange fate, from a one-night stand gone wrong, to this moment where her heart finally found home. When she reached him, Jinwoo whispered, "Mine, forever." And for once, Sarah didn't argue. She smiled, tears shimmering in her eyes. "Yours. Always." Their lips met once more, sealing not just a kiss, but a destiny. The wild, sweet, dramatic African girl and the dangerous Korean mafia boss, bound together, not by mistake, but by love.